The night I made up my mind to divorce Ethan was, honestly, completely uneventful. Nothing happened. There was no hysterical yelling, no bitter cursing. Just a moment before, he had left me alone in the movie theater, and the next moment, he was posting in our alumni group chat. I heard Claire's back in the country. Oh no, how many of our old classmates are going to dump their wives for her this time? Don't worry, they won't get the chance. Ethan's already first in line. In the photo, my husband stood under a tree, dressed in a long black wool coat, holding a potted gardenia. He wrapped Claire, the girl who had been his teenage dream, in a full embrace. If you looked closely, you could see tears slipping down from the corners of his eyes. Ethan didn't come home until midnight the day Claire returned. He used the excuse every cheating man uses. He'd left me just before the movie started and disappeared. But I wasn't totally clueless. For 4 hours straight, I received photo after photo from an unfamiliar number. I knew exactly where they were and what they were doing. So when Ethan, for the first time, tried to offer me an explanation with a tired look on his face, I gently patted his hand and told him, "It's okay." He clearly felt awkward. He'd expected me to react like I used to, make a scene, act all clingy, coax him into setting aside another day to make it up to me. He'd even prepared a lecture about how I should learn to be more understanding, but none of that came in handy. I took a deep breath, forcing down the pain that was spreading from my chest. Then I said to him, "Go clear your head. I need to talk to you." The bathroom light clicked on, casting a soft yellow glow. A moment later, I heard something fall to the ground. Ethan walked out, holding his phone, looking as composed and self-assured as ever. "You're mad at me because of this?" he asked, holding up the group chat photo to my face. "I didn't tell you the truth because I wanted to avoid unnecessary arguments. Every time Claire comes up, you lose your mind. You get irrational, just like now." Surprisingly, I wasn't angry at all. I even patted the couch, motioning for him to sit down. Once he did, I reached under the coffee table, pulled out a folder, and placed it in front of him. "Don't worry," I said. "You won't have to deal with the version of me you can't stand anymore. Let's get a divorce." "Divorce?" Ethan repeated. My best friend from college, Tyler, sat across from me and looked stunned. "You're serious? I don't believe it." I didn't blame him. After all, he'd seen how obsessed I used to be with Ethan, how I chased him with everything I had. Even when Ethan and I fought over Claire, I would still get drunk at a bar late at night and text Tyler to remind Ethan to come pick me up. So when he asked again if I really meant it, I told him with certainty, "Yes. I'll feel sad, but I won't regret it." Being the considerate friend he is, Tyler handed me a contact for a fixer. "I heard you have to make an appointment to get divorced now. This guy's the best I know. He just started offering VIP scheduling for divorce slots." I thanked him sincerely. Then Tyler asked, "So what's your plan?" I said I wasn't sure. Like he said, getting divorced isn't easy, especially when one person refuses to cooperate. Ethan told me he had no intention of getting a divorce. The night I laid it all out for him, he simply packed a small bag and went to his office. Before he left, he still believed I was just stirring up drama over Claire again. He sighed and said, "Lana, using something this small as an excuse to bring up divorce is irresponsible and childish. You're an adult, stop playing games." How ironic. In a marriage where we were supposed to take care of each other and be understanding, he demanded that I be as independent and self-reliant as a stranger. Yet he still flew overseas once a month, worried that Claire, 3 years older than me, might not be taking good care of herself abroad. If I hadn't stumbled across it by accident, he would have kept this hidden from me for the rest of my life. That night, I lay in bed thinking I'd cry myself to sleep. But to my surprise, I fell into a deep sleep right away and even had a dream. I dreamed about the first time I met Ethan. I was 18, fresh out of high school after the college entrance exams. My parents couldn't wait to dress me up and show me off, hoping to find someone who'd buy me for a good price. I tried to resist, but it was no use. Eventually, I gave in. Still, I couldn't accept being paraded around to 3 different banquets in one day. It made me feel like I was working in a certain kind of profession, moving from one bed to another. So while my parents were chatting with guests, I snuck off to the bathroom, took off the heavy, elaborate dress, and changed into a simple white t-shirt and light blue jeans. I ran down the narrow path, telling myself I was a Barbie princess, making a daring escape. This was my brave getaway. I imagined that at the end of the road, there would be light and hope. But I had underestimated the mosquitoes in July. I hadn't even walked for 20 minutes, and the so-called Barbie princess was nearly drained of blood. It completely slipped my mind that tonight's dinner was being held halfway up a mountain. That was when Ethan appeared. His car window rolled down, and when I saw his face, a little whistle blew in my mind. As two well-known figures in the second-generation social circle, I'd always felt a kind of unspoken camaraderie with him. But unlike me, who was known for being desperate to marry, Ethan's reputation came from falling in love with a girl from a poor background. That night, we were both miserable and reckless. We ended up drunk on a bridge, pouring our hearts out by the roadside in the middle of the night. Someone took photos and spread them everywhere. One thing led to another, and somehow, we got engaged. We were a perfect match. I helped cover up his meetings with Claire, and he helped me fend off my family's endless moral pressure. That gave me room to breathe, and a chance to return to the photography I loved. Those days, the three of us actually lived quite well together. So, when exactly did I start to feel something different for him? Maybe it was after Claire went abroad. I don't know how Ethan's mom found out about the relationship between the three of us, or what Ethan told Claire. But in the end, Claire got married. Ethan was a mess during that time, yet he still took care of me. The final straw was when he stood up to my parents again, this time after they told me to donate a kidney to some wealthy tycoon in Harbor City. That's when I said to him, "Ethan, what if we give it a try?" He gave a sad smile. "You're chasing me now?" I nodded. From that day on, I became Ethan's shadow. I did everything I could to create chances to see him, checking in on him, bringing him breakfast. That was the easy part. I even wrote him love letters, pouring out my heart to Mount Everest itself. I never thought about giving up. Until our first wedding anniversary, when I found out he had exchanged vows with Claire at a small chapel overseas. When I confronted him, he said, "I was just helping out. Claire's husband was too busy to attend the wedding, and the venue was already booked. We're just friends. If there were really something between us, why would she marry someone else before I even got a chance?" He told me he had truly let go of Claire. I believed him. I believed the "I love you" he said to me at that wedding. So I gave him 3 chances. After the third, no matter what he said, there would be no future between us. And this was the third time. The alumni chat group was buzzing again now that Claire was back. They were planning another reunion. I went, partly to block Ethan's path and force a conversation. Since the night I brought up divorce, I hadn't been able to reach him for 7 straight days. The divorce agreement I sent to his office had vanished without a trace. Every time I called, his assistant claimed he was either on a business trip or in a meeting, as if he were actually that busy. He was just using silent treatment to force me into backing down. That was his specialty, playing the long game, either dragging things out until we had to go to court, or forcing a 2-year separation to meet divorce requirements. Even though I had mentally prepared myself for a war, I still hoped to sit down and talk, to end this ridiculous marriage as quickly as possible. The reunion was held at an old restaurant near our alma mater. I arrived just as Claire was walking out. The narrow hallway wasn't ideal for a conversation, but she blocked my way, lighting a cigarette with practiced ease. "So you're really going through with the divorce?" she said. "You don't need to force him to choose between you and me like this. No matter what you do, you'll still be the one who loses. It's been 7 years. How do you still not know your place?" I was just about to curse her out when her expression suddenly changed. The mockery on her face turned into pity. She grabbed my hand tightly and said, "Mrs. Carter, you've misunderstood me. I really have nothing going on with your husband. What happened back then was so long ago, I didn't think you were still holding on to it. I came back just to see family and friends. I'll leave, just like you want, but could it not be today? Could you just give me a little dignity? I only want to have a meal with them. It's just one meal." I was still stunned by how quickly she could change her tone when all of a sudden, a strong hand slammed into me and pinned me against the grease-stained wall. Ethan's jaw was clenched, veins bulging at his temple. "Didn't I tell you," he growled, "to stay away from her?" I reacted instantly and slapped Ethan across the face twice. Then, pointing straight at Claire, I said slowly and clearly, "If you mess with me, hitting you would be illegal. But since it's all because of this man between us, from now on, every time you cross me, I'll hit him. Let's see how that goes. This face of his can't take too many hits." I pulled another copy of the divorce papers from my bag and flung it right at Ethan's face. "I'm here to get divorced. Don't add drama to the script." Then I went downstairs and gave the restaurant owner 500 yuan to get a copy of the stairwell's surveillance footage. I immediately sent it to the Carter family's group chat. I didn't have the time or energy to care about what kind of storm the footage would stir up within the Carter family. I had no intention of crying to those cold, sharp-tongued relatives, begging them to take my side. Instead, I quickly packed up and moved out of the home Ethan and I had shared. To me, both marriage and divorce are serious matters. Once a decision is made, it should be quick and clean. Dragging it out with useless entanglements just makes people think you're playing games and makes them question whether you ever meant it in the first place. The small 3-bedroom apartment I moved into had been left to me by the nanny who raised me. It was my secret haven. Ethan and I had once made love in every corner of this place. Back then, he had held me and said, "Forever is too far. Loving you for a lifetime is enough." And now, our ending wasn't much different from that of most couples. Once I locked up after moving in, I collapsed onto the couch and started looking up Claire. We had once studied jewelry design together. But in the 7 years she'd been away from Ethan, she'd switched careers and become a stage actress. Starting from a small theater in London, she had gradually made a name for herself. Now, she was semi-famous in her circle. She also ran a content channel online. Her social media wasn't hard to find, nearly 1 million followers, signed under an MCN agency. She had posted several vlog updates about her return to China, all hyping up her first livestream shopping event, scheduled for 3 days later. In that moment, I was immensely grateful. I had a habit of documenting everything. I opened my Notes app in Cloud Drive, selected my favorite PowerPoint template, and began arranging every moment Ethan had shared with Claire since our marriage in a clear, chronological order. I spared no detail. The monthly round-trip flights to London over 4 years, the matching ski gear they used together, the age-numbered birthday gifts Ethan gave her every single year. Everything was presented with meticulous clarity and irrefutable logic, so convincing, you might even call it the image of a loving couple. And just as she went live for her debut stream, I hit publish. The post, tagging both Ethan and Claire, shot to the top of the trending list, alongside the keyword affair, and a blazing red hashtag, Claire Exposed. What was supposed to be a massive, money-making live stream turned into a complete disaster. As expected, my phone blew up. Call after call, especially from my mother-in-law. Her shrill voice pierced through the phone, making my head throb. I never had much patience for her to begin with, and today I had even less. I took a deep breath from the pit of my stomach and shouted into the phone, "You old bat," I was being polite. Then I hung up and blocked her. Smooth and efficient. The truth is, Ethan's mother never liked me. She simply had no other option. After all, among Ethan's choices, it was either Claire or me. The first argument Ethan and I ever had was because of her. It was early in our marriage. She had a habit of making surprise visits, no regard for time or place, just barging into our home unannounced. She criticized me constantly, and because I loved Ethan, I tolerated it. Again and again. Until one day, right in front of me, she calmly said, "Honestly, I liked Ethan's previous girlfriend more." That was the first time Ethan saw what I was truly capable of. I went absolutely ballistic, screaming, kicking, punching, chasing her out of my home like a mad woman. From that day on, I stopped attending any Carter family gatherings if she was present, no matter how many snide remarks or mocking glances he had to endure alone. That night, I was crushed. I buried myself under the blanket and forced myself into sleep. Ethan rushed home from work and stood quietly in the bedroom, watching me for a long time before finally speaking. "Lana, you lashed out at my mom." I said nothing. He lost his temper. He yanked me out from under the covers, half threatening, half pleading. Lana, she's my mom. I grabbed anything within reach and hurled it at him. So what? She's your mom, so what? Does that mean I just have to suck it up? Even when she deliberately brought up Claire in front of me. Later, I talked myself into it, so what if they wanted me to apologize? Fine, I'd apologize. In the middle of the night, wearing pajamas, hair a mess, I drove straight into the Carter family estate, clutching a fruit knife. I dragged his mother by the collar into the car and sped toward the airport. As I changed gears and floored the gas, I said coldly, "Regretting it now, huh? I'll buy you a ticket. Let's go get her back. What do you think?" She clung to the door handle for dear life, curled up in the passenger seat, trembling uncontrollably. At whispering, "I'm sorry, it was my fault," I almost dropped her off right at the departure gate. After that, my reputation in the Carter family was ruined. Petty, vengeful, ruthless. I made it clear, I would never let anyone crush me just to feel powerful. Ethan's call came later than his mother's. I could hear the exhaustion in his voice the moment I picked up. As soon as the line connected, silence fell over us. Neither of us spoke. We both waited. After what felt like forever, he finally sighed from the other end, then gently called me by his old nickname for me. "Little Star, stop making a fuss." And in that moment I realized something. Ethan had never really respected me. Not in our marriage, not even now. In his mind, he truly believed that my demand for divorce and every move I made to force it were just tactics to win him back. He thought it was all desperation, that I couldn't let him go. I had loved him too deeply, too openly. And that had made him bold, arrogant. I thought for a long time, carefully choosing my words. "You're feeling pretty smug, aren't you? Having your teenage dream by your side and a legally wedded wife going hysterical to win you back. A home on both sides of the world. Ethan, a man should not be both shameless and vile." He must have been genuinely pissed by that, because when he spoke again, his voice had a helpless, almost mocking edge. "Lana, I swear. Mrs. Carter is a title that will always belong to you. I'll eventually come back home, where I belong. Just stop obsessing over Claire, okay? You don't know how much stress you're putting her through. Everyone's at their wits' end. And what does that have to do with me? Whether it's being a joke in the alumni group chat or getting flamed online, aren't those all consequences you two brought on yourselves? I refuse to wait until the moment you flirt so openly that I can't take it anymore and finally start hurting myself just to feel something. No. I want him to be branded as disgusting and shameless from the very beginning. I will not let him earn a single cent off of your name." Ethan and I fell into a cold war with no end in sight. It was like he was determined to provoke me on purpose. For days, he and Claire appeared together at multiple parties. She attended as his plus one, always at his side, perfectly matched, suggestively close. Friends tried to talk me down, telling me how tough things were for him. "There's really nothing going on between them anymore," they said. "It's just that the breakup back then was so ugly, there's still some emotional baggage." He's had it rough overseas too. His first marriage left him with nothing but a kid. He started live streaming just to make money to raise the child. But now, because of you, he's in breach of contract and owes a ton in penalties. "Lana, your husband is already one of the best men you could hope for. Be the bigger person," they told me. "Make it easier for everyone." So I cut ties immediately and told that mutual friend to go persuade Ethan instead. Tell him to stop dragging this out and just give me a clean break. Before leaving, I even wished his future wife would have the same kind of soul-deep connection with someone else, the way Claire had with Ethan. In return, that friend blew up and cussed me out like a maniac. As the end of the year approached, so did the Carter family's exhausting set of traditions. I had no intention of attending another one of those pointless family dinners with Ethan. But his grandfather called me personally, and I had no choice but to grit my teeth and show up. Grandpa Carter had always been one of the few decent elders in the family. Our wedding had been complete chaos. My parents had tried to sell me off for a good match, and the rest of the Carter family had judged me relentlessly for it. Aside from a few friends, almost no one stayed until the ceremony ended. But Grandpa Carter had hummed the wedding march under his breath and clapped with a smile, congratulating us sincerely. Just my luck, Ethan's car pulled up at the same time as mine in front of the old family estate. Claire was in his passenger seat. Both of them wore matching expressions of cold detachment. Hers carried a trace of disdain. After getting out, Ethan reached out to support Claire by the waist, leaning down to whisper something in her ear. If this moment were a painting, I would have looked like an intrusive, awkward smudge, ruining their perfect harmony. But I never learned how to hold back. I stormed up and yanked Claire by the hair, jerking her head backward. The Carter family really must be slipping. Even trash can waltz in through the front gate now. Claire collapsed weakly into Ethan's arms, her eyes brimming with tears, yet a mocking smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Ethan's face darkened. He grabbed my wrist. "What the hell are you doing? My mom invited her. There's official business tonight." I wasn't intimidated. So what? I don't care if your mom or your ancestors invited her, I'll still lay hands on her. We walked in together. Ethan hovered by Claire's side the entire time like he was terrified I'd lash out again. The relatives were scattered around the living room in small groups. Ethan fussed over Claire, checking her scalp for injuries, while I stood isolated and ignored. I hated this house. No matter how bright the lights were, how spotless the marble floors gleamed, I always felt like something rotten was floating in the air, thick and unshakable. Ethan's mom was seated among her clique of distant relatives. When our eyes met, hers darted away, feigning distraction. But the moment she noticed Ethan by Claire's side, she sat up straighter and louder than ever. She was clearly dressed up for the occasion, her voice pitched higher than usual, as if for performance. "You two hadn't even walked in the door, and already made a scene at the gate," she snapped. "So rude." I smiled faintly. "Funny, I was about to ask you the same." Ethan said, "Claire was here at your invitation. What is this, you trying to copy your husband? Mixing wives and mistresses at the same New Year's table for a little festive chaos?" Ethan's father had no shortage of mistresses. One New Year's, when they all showed up demanding attention, he simply invited every one of them to dinner, with the entire family present. His wife had been so enraged, she fell ill for months afterward. My comment was apparently so outrageous that the room fell into stunned silence. No one dared to be the first to break it. Ethan's mom rolled the prayer beads in her hand and spoke slowly. "Don't be so petty. You're obsessing over what happens in my son's bed. Broaden your horizons. I invited Claire here today for a legitimate reason. That live stream of hers, you sabotaged it. So to make up for it, I told Ethan to give her the endorsement deal from the brand he just secured." Then, pretending to be all concerned, she turned to me. "Lana, you're not going to be upset about that, are you?" The moment she said it, something seized in my chest. I reached for the bottle of red wine on the coffee table, freshly uncorked. I didn't even know if I was shaking with anger or heartbreak. I just knew the pain was so sharp, it felt like my heart was about to explode. Through clenched teeth, I stared at Ethan. Whose idea was this? He stood up like he wanted to walk over, but Claire tugged gently at the hem of his jacket, stopping him in his tracks. His mother continued, slow and calculated. "You need to understand Claire's situation. She's a single mom raising a kid on her own. Everything costs money, and thanks to your little tantrum, she lost a major source of income." "And you?" I asked Ethan directly. "Do you agree with all of this?" His response was more resolute than anyone's. "Lana, I owe her a lot. I want to make it up to her." The moment those words left his mouth, the wine bottle in my hand flew straight at his head. Someone screamed. The bottle shattered on the floor with a loud crash. It was impossible to tell whether the liquid splattered on him was blood or wine. Hatred surged in my chest. Everyone knew ULA was a boutique jewelry brand under the Carter Group. Its Chinese name, Yilai, meant from the past to the future, without end, endless exploration, and infinite possibility. It was Ethan's personal passion project, a symbol of his full-hearted love for me. It had been his wedding gift to me. And now he was offering it to his first love, Claire. His mother used it like a club to beat me down. That was the moment I changed my mind. A peaceful breakup? To hell with that. I wiped the sweat from my palms and remembered that Grandpa Carter was still upstairs waiting for me. Taking a deep breath, I forced myself to calm down. I walked over, gently straightened the shawl that had slipped from Ethan's mother's shoulders, and softly said, "Mom, I don't hit elders." That would be rude. but since you insist on provoking me, what can I do? I'll just hit your son instead." I looked her square in the eyes. "I already told Miss Claire the same thing. Hitting you two might be illegal, but hitting him? That's just family business. I hope you'll all remember that, because reminding you over and over again is exhausting." I felt her body tremble under my hand. Around us, the so-called aunts, those I was expected to greet with a smile and call auntie, were already muttering how I was uncouth and disgraceful. One of them, who had married into the family from Harbor City, spoke in broken Mandarin as she scolded me. "You so fierce, also so stupid. Men just pick one that's decent. No need love all crazy. He just like pig, still grandpa like you, give baby, everyone happy la." Eyes red, I looked at her and said, "I used to think like that too, before I made up my mind to get a divorce. But somehow, the moment that thought popped into my head, I suddenly remembered our wedding certificate, still displayed in our bedroom. Back then, Ethan had been swamped with work, too busy for a honeymoon or even a photo shoot. He was filled with guilt and had pulled me into his arms, apologizing over and over. I still remembered him sitting under the warm glow of the lamp, carefully writing every single invitation by hand, wearing his gold-rimmed glasses. Maybe we had truly loved each other once. Maybe that's why it was so hard to stomach everything now. I went upstairs to see Grandpa Carter. Ever since winter had set in, his health had declined. He rarely made public appearances anymore. The housekeeper had already told him what happened downstairs. He looked at me with kind eyes and nodded approvingly. "It's good," he said. "You know how to protect yourself." He gave me a large amount of money, along with some of his jewelry collection and property deeds. I asked him directly, "Are you giving these willingly?" "I'm divorcing Ethan. Once the papers are signed, if you ask for them back, I won't return a thing." He laughed so hard that tears welled up in his eyes. "What the hell does that have to do with him? I'm giving them to you because I want to. I know what he did to you. Out of all my grandson's wives, you're the only one who was ever good to me, and I remember that." Then he sighed softly. "I just feel sorry for you two. You had fate, but not destiny. I still remember when you were getting married," he continued, eyes twinkling. His eyes lit up just like they did when he was a teenager, blushing, shy, telling me he was marrying the girl he loved most in the world. He patted my head. "Lana, I'm old. I can't control you anymore. All I can do is give you these things and hope you live a wonderful life." Neither Ethan's mother's cruelty nor Claire's taunts had broken me. But Grandpa Carter's gentle, heartfelt words shattered every wall I had left. I cried, really cried. "Grandpa," I sobbed, "why did it have to turn out like this between us?" He stroked my head. "He's just not the right one, that's all. Don't cry for him." "I won't," I promised. That same day, news broke announcing Claire as the new face of the ULA brand. It was New Year's Eve. The moment the clock struck midnight, every LED screen and ad display in the city switched to her campaign poster. Someone online asked, "So the real wife lost?" I replied from my backup account, "Still here." The words battle, fight, surged to the top of the trending list in an instant. Countless netizens flooded the brand's page. "You can't even hate her," one comment read. "She really can sell. How long was she planning to keep selling that act?" If I had even a fraction of her persistence, I could have conquered anything. After the official announcement, ULA hosted a series of live streams. Their target audience ranged from students to working professionals. Everyone was covered. Once upon a time, the love story between Ethan and me was the brand's best advertisement. Under my management, ULA had even launched a women's empowerment fund, allocating part of the revenue to support women across different age groups through difficult times. Now, countless women who had bought ULA jewelry came forward to support me. They flooded the live streams, posting comment after comment, protesting the appointment of the new ambassador, Claire. I didn't know whether it was part of her PR strategy or her own decision, but during one live stream, Claire accidentally read aloud some of the nastier comments. Her eyes turned red as the viewer count peaked. With a strained smile and a choked-up voice, she said, "Just because someone speaks first doesn't mean it's the truth. I admit, I once had a relationship with Mr. Ethan Carter, president of the Carter Group. We were young and deeply in love. We planned to register our marriage right after graduation and take our wedding photos in Iceland. But in the end, the one who became Mrs. Carter was someone who used to trail behind me calling me sister and saying she wanted to be my bridesmaid. She gave a long sigh. If you're innocent, you don't need to explain. I don't want to be scolded anymore, but the past is the past. Let's not talk about it. Public opinion flipped in an instant. I had intended to counter her narrative using photos, pictures of me and Ethan, each one time-stamped, showing clear proof of our timeline. But when I logged into my cloud account, it was completely empty. All the files had been deleted. It was Ethan who shared access to the family account with me. He deleted every trace, throwing me into the center of a massive wave of online hate, all for Claire. Very soon, the witch hunt began. People who considered themselves moral crusaders found my old apartment complex and splashed paint across my front door. Some played crude, offensive recordings at full volume. Others went further, sending death threats by mail. The day I moved into a hotel, Claire's car was parked across the street. She rolled down the window, sunglasses on, no longer the fragile little thing she pretended to be around Ethan. Her face bore nothing but smug contempt as she raised a middle finger toward me and drove off. Tyler clutched my portfolio and fumed, practically breathless. "And you're still not gonna hit back?" Truthfully, I'd already recovered the chat logs and data that proved Claire was lying on the second day of the scandal. But suddenly, it hit me. Why should I have to prove anything? She was the one defaming me. She should be the one producing evidence. All I had to do was keep collecting proof, quietly, precisely, and when the spotlight was at its brightest, I'd sue her and every single person who had hurled abuse at me from behind a screen. So I wasn't in a rush. Let the story spread a little wider, let the damage run a little deeper, then I'd strike. What I didn't expect was to run into Caleb Song in Harbor City while sourcing a ruby for a client. Maybe the saying was true, bad luck in love, good fortune in business. My jewelry studio had just landed a major commission. A woman had hired me to design a custom piece for her daughter's 18th birthday. A July birthday meant a ruby was the perfect stone. I saw Caleb at the airport. I stared at him, surprised. Broad shoulders, long legs, camel coat over a perfectly tailored suit, he was still just as handsome, only now more mature. It had been years. There was a bit of awkward distance between us. He rubbed the bridge of his nose sheepishly. "Tyler was worried about you. He asked me to come and help out locally. We'd known each other since we were young. If I dared to say it, we were childhood sweethearts, though Ethan had never liked that. Once I got together with Ethan, he'd done everything he could to sever my ties with Caleb, and eventually, we drifted apart to avoid making things more complicated. That night, Victoria Harbor lit up with fireworks. Caleb took me around to sample street snacks. In a century-old noodle shop packed wall to wall, we squeezed into a small corner, sitting a little too close as we ate quietly. The winter lemon tea was even better than in summer. One sip and goosebumps ran down my arms. In that noisy, chaotic little space, neither of us mentioned anything about our current lives. We didn't need to. We were too busy remembering the past. "Is that milk tea shop still open?" he asked, referring to the one near our old high school. "Still there," I said. "Different owner, same decor." "Really? I haven't been in years," he said. "The old owner used to talk about you. I went to buy tea once, and he asked me, 'Hey, that guy who wore the leather jacket with the collar popped up, even in the dead of winter, how come I haven't seen him in ages?'" Caleb chuckled as he slurped his bowl of bamboo pole noodles. The tips of his ears flushed red, and he exclaimed in disbelief, "That was so many years ago, he still remembers?" God, the last thing I needed was someone bringing up embarrassing stuff I did at 17. I teased him. "Well, that's what you get for trying to look cool all winter, refusing to wear a down jacket and insisting on draping it over your arm." He put down his chopsticks, wiped his mouth, and shot back. "At least I didn't pull a U, scooping all the principal's goldfish out of the pond just to feed them to the vice principal's stray cats." In that smoky, lively little noodle shop, we both burst out laughing. The kind of laughter that feels like a release, free, unfiltered, genuine. It wasn't until a week after I landed in Harbor City that Ethan's secretary called me. Clearly, Ethan was concerned but couldn't bring himself to contact me directly, so he had the secretary ask when I'd be coming back. After all, the new year was around the corner and there was a lot to prepare. I told her to pass on a message. Divorcing couples don't need to celebrate the new year together. If there's anything else, please contact my lawyer. When Ethan heard that message, he was helping Claire go over the will of her second husband. The will left her a picturesque but impractical castle, charming to look at, but a money pit to maintain. Whether she lived there or not, the annual upkeep costs were astronomical. The legal wording was tricky, and Claire asked him for help. He spent the entire day at her place going through documents and only got a break around 9 p.m. That was when the secretary delivered my response. He paused, then looked at Claire. She was wearing a white silk nightgown, exactly the way he remembered her, and yet he felt nothing for her anymore. What filled his mind in that moment was the sudden urge to see Lana, his wife. He began packing up faster than usual, not noticing the stiff smile on Claire's face. As he moved around, she reached out and gently touched his wrist. "You're leaving? I promised the kid we'd video call tonight," she said softly. "He wants to say a few words to his dad." The child had been a surprise. That night, too, had been a surprise. Claire had claimed the child was his, and not wanting to hurt her, neither of them brought up doing a paternity test. But the more she talked about the kid, the more Ethan just wanted to see his wife. He left in a rush. His car idled in front of the company building as he debated his next step. In the end, he told himself he'd work overtime that night so he could free up the next few days and head to Harbor City to see Lana. As for the divorce, he had never taken it seriously. He knew Lana loved him. He assumed she was just acting out over the 7-year itch. All she needed was a little coaxing and everything would go back to normal. But while he was making those plans, I was already living a completely different life. My driver's license didn't work directly in Harbor City, so Caleb had arranged for a driver to get me around during my stay. On the day of the auction, luck was on my side. I won the ruby I had my eye on with minimal competition. After finishing the paperwork, the driver asked where I wanted to go. Without hesitation, I said, "Victoria Peak." I wanted inspiration. I needed space to think. I found a quiet spot to rest while waiting for the sunset. The hot cocoa in my hands was warming, but a little too sweet. I had barely sat down when I heard a voice behind me. "You made it." It was Caleb. "Cold?" he asked. "Not really," we said in unison. He gestured for me to go ahead. "Are you tired?" I asked. He smiled at the sunset in the distance. "Not at all." But that wasn't the only thing I wanted to ask. What I really wanted to say was, "Are you tired after all these years?" Just yesterday, Caleb's mom had invited me to dinner. After the college entrance exams, they'd left in such a hurry that I never got a chance to say goodbye. It was a missed farewell I'd always regretted. She looked a little older, fine lines at the corners of her eyes, but still just as gentle and beautiful as I remembered. She was the sentimental type. She'd saved so many things from our childhood. "This was your first English award," she said, holding up an old certificate. "You told me you wanted to thank me for tutoring you, so you gave it to me, and even added my name to it. And this book," she added, "was the prize you and Caleb won for your social studies project. He used to read it every night. Nearly memorized the whole thing." She polished the glass on the picture frame, then added, somewhat awkwardly, "I met Caleb's father while studying abroad. We didn't know his family was so wealthy in Harbor City until after we got married. There were too many rules. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I divorced him and returned to North City alone. My health wasn't great, and emotionally I was exhausted. It wasn't until 3 months later that I realized I was pregnant with Caleb. Being a single mom for all these years, looking back, it honestly doesn't feel that hard. The year you took the college entrance exams, Caleb's grandfather got sick. The old man begged me to come back, so we rushed back to Harbor City. Turns out that stubborn old man clung to life and just wouldn't die. He ended up sending Caleb to the UK. We were so broke back then, we couldn't even afford to come back and find you. The next time we heard anything about you was when we received your wedding invitation. Caleb had actually planned to confess his feelings to you right after the exams. That damn old man ruined everything and cost him all those years. I guess Caleb's mom assumed I'd come to Harbor City after my divorce just to unwind and heal. She wanted to comfort me, but was afraid she'd say the wrong thing. So she pushed her son forward instead. "Lena," she said softly, "if you're feeling lost, why not give my son a chance? He's never dated anyone all these years. Every blind date I've arranged has gone nowhere. He's still clean." My face flushed crimson as I waved my hands, embarrassed. Then she added, almost in a whisper, "He's healthy too. You know, in that way." Even more flustered, I turned to look at Caleb's profile. The sunset painted his face in warm light. In that moment, it was easy to remember the boy from my memories. I asked him to grab 2 blades of grass so we could play the game we used to play as kids, pulling grass. He chuckled and called me childish. "You were always so competitive," he said. "Every time we played, and I was about to win, you'd reach over and mess up my grass. Totally ruined the game." "Well, yeah," I admitted, staring at the tips of my shoes. "Everyone says I hate losing. That's why I have to beat Ethan. I can't let him trap me in this divorce and walk away holding the advantage." Caleb understood instantly. "You want me to introduce you to a fierce lawyer?" he offered with a grin. "No need. Mine's fierce enough," I said as I stood up and took a few steps forward, then turned back to him. "Let's go. Drive me back to the hotel. Might as well take a ride in young Master Caleb's brand new sports car." He ducked his head and muttered under his breath, "Young Master, my ass." When we got to the hotel entrance, Caleb didn't get out of the car. We simply waved and said, "Next time." As the elevator doors were closing on my way up, Ethan appeared out of nowhere. I had no idea how he'd found me. He had to be out of his mind. When the elevator reached my floor, he dragged me out with a force I couldn't break free from, pulling me toward the emergency stairwell. In the dim light, he trapped me between his arms, leaning in like an abandoned dog, his nose brushing against my skin, inhaling deeply. "Was it fun, Star?" he whispered. "Why didn't you tell me the truth? Weren't you here in Harbor City for work? Why was he the one driving you back to the hotel?" "Star," he murmured, "I want to lock you up, somewhere only I can find you. That way, we can go back to how we used to be." I finally managed to free one arm and slapped him twice. "Have you lost your mind?" I demanded. He rubbed his cheek, then straightened up, his expression smoothing out again like nothing had happened. "Moving, seeing old friends." "Star, you're playing too far. It's time to come home." Maybe I'd made things too easy for Ethan in the past. Maybe that's why he thought no matter how big the problem was, he could just smooth talk me and everything would go back to normal. He took my hand and pressed it to his face, almost playfully. "You hit harder than before. My face actually hurts." "I know you still care about all this," he continued. "But Claire, that was all ancient history. Giving her that endorsement was just a little money, nothing serious. Can you stop holding a grudge, babe?" I pulled my hand away. "It's not a grudge. That endorsement was supposed to be mine." "Ethan, you're smart. You should know I'm not joking. So stop playing dumb and stop making excuses for cheating." He stood there for a moment, then silently pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and said, "Tomorrow at noon. You're flying back home with me." Before he turned to leave, he kissed me lightly on the forehead, and I took out my phone and called the police. "Officer, I've just been assaulted." Thanks to Ethan, I got my first real taste of Harbor City after dark. At the police station, Ethan's lawyer kept insisting it was a domestic dispute, trying to downplay the situation. But the hotel surveillance footage clearly showed he was the one who got physical. Caleb's lawyer, who he'd hired on my behalf, conveyed my wishes. Stall. Just long enough so Ethan couldn't return to the mainland. I knew the Carter family had enough connections to eventually bail him out. That's why I needed every minute I could get to head home and deal with the mutt he'd been secretly feeding. I booked the earliest flight back to North City. Just before takeoff, I posted a legal notice online. I was officially suing Claire for defamation and for unlawfully possessing marital assets. As soon as I landed, I met with my lawyer to verify the details and immediately filed the case. At first, Claire didn't take the notice or the court summons seriously. She continued attending public events as usual, even casually bringing up the issue in an interview. "We were both design majors," she said. "And as a designer, the most upsetting thing is having your work stolen, being robbed of something that was rightfully yours. Unfortunately, Miss Lana has done that more than once." As the media circus grew, online attacks against me intensified. But the louder they screamed, the sharper my creative drive became. That ruby I bought? I designed it into a radiant sun, surrounded by 4 or 5 color-matched diamonds, held up by an intricate petal-like gold frame. It was my most satisfying work in years. I submitted the final design to a prestigious jewelry competition, only to have the public dig up my entry info and leak it online. Claire even posted a video directly addressing the contest committee, demanding to know why they'd allow someone morally corrupt and with a record of plagiarism to enter. Her fans went wild, flooding the committee's inbox with complaints, demanding my disqualification. But what truly enraged me was her use of the phrase, suspected plagiarism. Every design I've ever created is like my child. That accusation wasn't just baseless, it was a direct insult. At the same time, the internet began praising Claire as a design prodigy. That night, during her live stream, she held up a sketch that looked 80% similar to mine. "This," she said, "was a birthday gift I designed for myself back in college, and now someone else is claiming it as their own." She called me out by name, called me a despicable plagiarist, right there on camera. My phone, email, and inbox were bombarded with filth. Even the woman who had commissioned the ruby piece messaged me. "Lana," she wrote, "I need an explanation." No one expected I'd had the impulse to record my entire design process, but I had, because I was just that proud of it. Over 56 hours, completed in under 3 days. I uploaded every minute of it online. Then I pulled the security footage from my studio. It showed Ethan's mother trying to punch in my door code, multiple failed attempts. Then she made a phone call. On the screen, it clearly said Ethan Carter. I had already changed all the passwords and revoked Ethan's back-end access. Next, my assistant appeared and opened the door for her. She'd been bribed. Ethan had transferred her 5,000 yuan. Once inside, Ethan's mom found my safe, opened it, and took photos of my design drafts before putting them back and leaving. I uploaded the unedited, unblurred footage. The internet panicked. Ethan had just managed to slip out of Harbor City, but by the time he returned to North City, he was buried in new scandals. He accused me of being too aggressive. "Lana, she's still your mother-in-law. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" he asked. "You called her mom for years. Don't you feel even a little guilty treating her like this?" I spread my hands. Wasn't me who sent her to steal my work. Riding the momentum, I revised our divorce agreement. Ethan would leave the marriage with nothing. After reading it, he repeated the same thing he always did. "I don't agree to a divorce." He made it sound like a huge concession. "I'll stay out of Claire's business from now on. If you want to sue her, have her pay, or even see her jailed, fine. Just one condition, we stay married." Claire, sitting next to him, clung to his arm. "No. Think about the child. He can't have a mother in prison." Then she picked up a box of tissues and threw it at me. I easily dodged it. "Ethan, you've lost the right to negotiate with me," I said. "Either walk away with nothing and I won't press charges against your mother, or get ready to spend the rest of her life with her name dragged through the mud." That was when Ethan's mom finally lost it. She rushed at Claire and started hitting her, crying and yelling as she did. "It was you," she screamed. "You told me to steal the designs. You said you could get Lana to listen to me, you lying slut." I handed the choice to Ethan. He no longer stood tall. His shoulders slumped, his shoulders hunched, his voice trembled as he asked me, "Lana, do you still love me?" Sigh. The Lana at 20, who still believed in fairy tales, wanted all of Ethan's love. But the Lana at 27, who had survived betrayal and a failed marriage, just wanted all of Ethan's net worth. Love? That ship had sailed a long time ago. When Ethan finally transferred all of his assets into my name, and our divorce was finalized, the internet was flooded with video apologies from the very trolls who had once torn me apart. I'd won. Completely. The most vicious, the ones who had fabricated lies and stirred up trouble, were sentenced to 2 years in prison. The rest had to pay compensation and issue public apologies. Some tried to dodge responsibility by claiming they were just immature, poor, or only students. I didn't forgive a single one of them. More critics crawled out of the woodwork, calling me petty, saying I lacked grace. To that, I could only ask, why? When they were screaming slurs at me, they wanted the whole world to hear. But when it came time to apologize, they wished only I would know. As for Claire and the assistant who betrayed me, Claire was ordered to return all marital assets and pay additional damages. She was also forced to purchase the necklace she'd publicly smeared. I would continue to create, to be inspired. But for her, life had already peaked and was on the decline. The assistant was sentenced to 6 months. I worked some connections and had them placed in the same prison unit. Hopefully they could look after each other. Ethan's mother poured money and favors into getting Claire's child out of the country, only to discover 7 days later that he wasn't Ethan's child at all. Rumor had it the shock hit her so hard she was hospitalized for 2 weeks. Once the dust settled, I packed my bags to celebrate my hard-won freedom with travel. On the day of my departure, I ran into Ethan again at the train station. He wore a windbreaker, looked utterly worn out, and stood in front of me like a man running on fumes. "Lana," he said, "give me another chance. I want to win you back." I thought for a moment, then raised my train ticket and told him. Back in college, I always wanted to visit Tibet, to go to Lhasa, to see the river Kangyang Gyatso wrote about in his poems, to see the Potala Palace in the photos. I'll be staying in Lhasa for 7 days. No set plans, just walking wherever I feel like going. If we happen to bump into each other on the streets of Lhasa, then I'll give you that chance. That day, Ethan saw me off at the platform. The moment I boarded, he turned and booked a flight to Tibet. But I got off halfway through. At the next station, I bought the soonest ticket I could find, destination, Dalinga, a place I'd only ever read about in poems. The train slowly pulled out of the station, and the vast, desolate beauty of the northwest landscape unfolded before my eyes. The 7 days I spent in Dalinga passed slowly. The pace of life was peaceful and easy, loosening every tense bone in my body. On the evening of the 7th day, I was at a bonfire party hosted by the guesthouse owner when Ethan called. His voice choked over the line. "Star, I can't find you," I answered calmly. "Yeah, I never went to Lhasa." "Why?" he asked. There wasn't really a why. That whole thing had just been a spur-of-the-moment whim. I never intended to open a new chapter with him. And besides, travel was supposed to be joyful, and I had no intention of running into garbage on my trip. 7 years had taught me he wasn't worth it. This tired old trope of the man who destroys your love, has a revelation, then tries to win you back? Disgusting. I took a deep breath and said his name seriously. "Ethan, do you know why I told you to go to Lhasa?" "Because I knew you'd get altitude sickness. I wanted you to die there and save everyone the trouble. Being married to you feels like having a criminal record. I don't care if you become a good person or a terrible one, just stay out of my life. I accept that I chose the wrong person. I accept that I wasn't loved. I accept that my efforts weren't reciprocated, that my sincerity never reached you. And that's fine. What I do now is own the loss, pay the price, and leave quickly. I refuse to trap myself in a futureless cage. I will always believe in my ability to begin again. So tonight, in Dalinga, I wrote something for myself. Today I walked every crooked path. From now on, my road will be wide and clear.